Okay, let us quickly explain the terms of trade, right? So by now we know a terms of trade is more of an index, more of an indicator. And for us to be able to get the terms of trade, we must actually use a formula, which is weighted average of export prices divided by the weighted average of import prices times 100. Whenever that you see export prices or changes in import prices, usually they're talking about the terms of trade, right? And you should remember, terms of trade, we usually refer to international trade, right? When we exchange goods and services across international borders, we are just looking at the prices of the exports and the prices of the imports, or what is actually happening to them, right? So we are saying terms of trade is an index, and it tells us the quantity level of exports that needs to be sold in order to purchase a given level of imports, right? So this index just tells us, are we supposed to sell more exports to be able to buy the given level of imports, or are we now supposed to sell less, right? Okay, so now we say the changes in the terms of trade may indicate that there has been a deterioration or an improvement, right? So you must note here the terms of trade can either increase, which leads to what we say it is an improvement, or the terms of trade can either deteriorate, which we say they are actually decreasing, right? So in terms of improvement, we are saying it's when the terms of trade increases, right? And we are saying this is good for us, like as a country. Why? Because um right, the price of a basket of exports can buy more imports than it could before. So this means, this is good for us because with the price of a basket of exports that we have, we can now buy more than we could before, right? The reason for this is because the price of exports has increased, right? Now, notice that if the prices of exports has increased, this means in the short term, we are going to get more export revenue. That's why we are saying this is good for us. And then in terms of the other reason for the improvement in the terms of trade, or the increase in the terms of trade, is because import prices decrease, right? So if import prices decrease, this is also good for us as South Africa. Why? Because this means we are going to spend less on imports, because the prices of imports has decreased, right? Then we have what we call a deterioration, and we are saying this is a decrease in the terms of in the terms of trade, and this is actually not good for us as a country if our terms of trade has actually declined, right? So when the terms of trade has decreased, we say that there has been a deterioration in the terms of trade. It has deteriorated because the price of a basket of exports can buy less imports that it could before, right? So we are saying this is bad for us because with the price of a basket of goods, right, of our exports, we now can buy less of imports, right? And the reason for this is because, number one, the price of exports decreased, right? Now, if the price of exports decreased, this means we are going to receive less income or less export revenue, right? Or another reason for the decrease in the terms of trade could be the import prices increase. Now, if the import prices increase, this means in the short term, we are going to pay more on imports, right? And now if you pay more on imports, you know already what is going to happen to our balance of payment. There's going to be a deficit there if we are paying more imports, right? So just remember, a deterioration is actually not good for us, right? And it leads to a balance of payment deficit, right? Why? Because if import prices increased, we are paying more, right? If the price of exports decreased, we are getting less export revenue, right? Or rather less export revenue. right? And then in terms of an improvement, we are saying it is good for us. Our standard of living or welfare will increase. Why? Because if the prices of exports has increased, we are receiving more revenue from the exports. Or if the import prices has decreased, we are spending less, right? So this may actually lead to a balance of payment surplus, right? Okay, so in terms of an improvement, for example, if the terms of trade in year 1 was 100, and when we calculate in year 2 is now 102, this is an improvement, right? But now let's say for deterioration, if in year 1 we had 100 and what 102, now in year 2 we now have what a terms of trade of what of 99, we can say there has been a deterioration, right? So now, you can be asked, how can changes in terms of trade influence the South African economy? You should know there's going to be there can either be an improvement or a deterioration. If there is an improvement, this means there's been an increase in the export prices or a decrease in the import prices, right? This will result in what? An increase in our economic welfare in the short term because we are getting more export revenue, right? Or because we are paying less for the what? We are paying less on what? We are paying less, on what? On imports, right? Right? We are also saying there can be a deterioration in the terms of trade. This can be as a result of a decline in the export prices or an increase in the import prices, right? So for this reason, this means we are going to spend more on imports, right, in the short run. And if we are spending more on imports, this will result in what? In a balance of payment deficit.